There were 4 games on Tuesday. Let's talk about them. Was there many injuries? Thankfully, I think we're okay. Michael Bolton.
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and my jiggling is almost hypnotic. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Download the app, use the code LOCKEDONNBA, get $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Also, thank you, or check out lockedondaily.com, actually. Do that. Sign up, newsletters free, 5 days a week, emails, bang. This one here, you subscribe, and if you're not subscribed now, what the hell's going on? You're here all the way through to the end of the year, and you haven't subscribed, maybe time to rectify that. Also, don't unsubscribe. That would be a good thing to do as well. Or a good thing not to do, depending on your use of syntax. It is National Poultry Day today. So, shout out to chickens. Shout out to turkeys. It's a day for us to respect them. It's a day for us to honor them. You could also be a little bit cheeky and you might tell someone, hey, it's the day that we're celebrating and worshipping cocks. So use that information as best as you can, but I'm just telling you, it's National Poultry Day. Shout out to every chicken and egg and breast and thigh and nugget and tender and whatever else we got out there. Let's talk news. Let's talk, and someone said, oh, why haven't you talked about Anthony Davis? All right, I'll talk about Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis got assigned to the G League, and there are people sometimes who see this stuff and go, man, cool, he's going to play in the G League. No, they're never going to play in the G League, these players. They go down there as like a piece of transactional minutia. What a name for a team that is. That'd be either a good emo band name or a good fantasy team, and there you go. Keep that. If anyone puts a fantasy team next season, because they've remembered that name, I want it sent to me. Transactional minutia. I want that as a team name. They just transition down there for extra days of practice or whatever it is, and that's usually what happens. Now, I have no idea what the Mavericks are doing, but again, I know you know that because we've seen their transactions they've made this season. Is Anthony Davis actually coming back? Often you see this, and they do this at a dance, and he comes back up, and he plays 1 or 2 games, and he sits out. I don't know what to do. Well, obviously, we know they have only 2 games this week. If Anthony Davis played 2 games this week, he's not. He's out tomorrow, so don't worry about that. He's only going to play 1 game this week. So if your league finishes this week, don't bother. You'd be adding and sacrificing Thursday, and then you'd have him on Friday, and that's not going to be worth it. After that, it gets a little bit interesting. Will he play 4 games a week? Almost definitely not. Will he play huge minutes? Again, almost definitely not. I would say it's 50-50 that he plays at all. Maybe not. Maybe it's 65 that he plays. I still don't think Lively's playing, and I'm certain Gafford's not playing. I don't know why he would come back. Now, I know he wants to come back. Players want to come back. But organizationally, it makes no sense. But again, nothing they do makes sense. So how do I balance that stuff? If you are in a bye week, it actually doesn't hurt you to add Anthony Davis to see if he comes back. I'm still going to be very skeptical. Remember, I'm going to put this like akin to the Desmond Bane stuff from last season, where we got sort of edged for a while, then he came back, he played like 4 games and he was done. Now, the Mavs aren't quite in that same position that the Grizzlies were. I think the Mavs are still are they in the play-in still? God, tell me it's not true. Tell me that no one caught them. Let's have a look. I think they might be 10th still. Bloody hell. They are a game ahead of the Suns. Okay. All right, so Davis probably, I wouldn't add him for this week. For next week, maybe. I'm still very skeptical about it, but we'll see where it goes. We got an update on the Wizards and Jazz Tank Fest. We said that it was going to be pretty interesting, and it is. And we've set up with some just unbelievable injury reporting. Let's look at the Jazz first. All right, so they ruled out Walker Kessler. They've ruled out Svi Mykhailiuk, Jaden Springer, and John Collins, and KJ Martin. What is interesting is that Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton, and Jordan Clarkson are not on the injury report. They're not on the injury report. Keep that in mind again. What does that mean, though? Does it mean that they play? Does it mean that they play big minutes? The answer to that, I think, is very clearly no. But it's very hard to know what they're going to do. With no Kessler and no Collins, I think you should feel pretty good about Kyle Filipowski having a good game. But all this other stuff is up in the air. Like, let's have a guess at this. Will Colin Sexton or Jordan Clarkson or Larry Markkinen play 20 minutes? Will they play? I don't think so. We saw 2 games. Well, against the Raptors, Larry played 18 and a half minutes. Sexton played 20 minutes and Clarkson was out. I think that's a pretty reasonable expectation. Because remember, at the moment, the Jazz are 1 game ahead. They're both on 15 wins, these teams. And the Jazz, if they just lose out, they hold the number 1 spot. If they beat the Wizards, well, the Wizards go ahead. The Wizards get to 15. They stay at 15 wins and the Jazz are at 16, meaning they can't catch them if they all just lose out. So that is why this game, these guys not in the injury report doesn't mean they're going to play. Or doesn't mean they're going to play anything sizable. It is going to be one of the worst games. But if you go into this game with a mindset of like, let's see how stupid it gets, that's, I think, how you're going to view it. The Wizards, on the other hand, they've just said, cool, we're not hiding anything. Marcus Smart's out. Chris Middleton is out. Corey Kisper's out for the year. Malcolm Brogdon's dead. Jordan Poole is doubtful. And then they chucked Keyshawn George there as questionable. Remembering, the last game they played Poole 10 minutes. They played Middleton 10 minutes. So they played George 19 minutes. They played Champagnie 19 minutes. So even though Champagnie and Sarr and Carrington aren't on the injury report, there's no guarantee they play even more than 10 minutes. There is no shot that Jordan Poole plays. I would say there's no shot Keyshawn George plays. And I would say everyone else is playing low minutes. So your opportunities, which is annoying, it's an 11-game day, you're probably not going to take advantage of it. But Tristan Vukcevic, he's already got the minutes over Rashawn Holmes last game. I think they just roll with him as the backup. I don't know, though. AJ Johnson, Colby Jones. Yeah, these are real players. Bob Carrington will play a little bit, but it's going to be Johnson, it's going to be Jones, it's going to be Jalen Martin, it's going to be, let's get it on, Anthony Gilly. It's going to be these sort of players who are going to have to shoulder this load while Champagnie plays 18 and Sarr plays 22 and Carrington plays 28 or whatever it is, because they just don't have the horses for it. Do they recall JT Thor from the G League and he plays 25 minutes? Maybe. They have already ruled out Middleton, Smart, Brogdon, Poole's not going to play, and George is questionable, whereas Kessler is out, and then we'll see what happens. It is going to be bad. Ja Morant is out again. I don't know that he falls onto my I would never draft again list, but this is just a season that actually just doesn't make sense for Morant at all. It's just something every 5 days. I don't know what it is. He's out again. Pippen's questionable. Aldama's questionable. So could be some changes in that rotation. The Ides of March have struck down Jeremy Grant once more. He's doubtful. What that does is, again, it opens up that opportunity for old mate Matisse Thybulle. It opens up more for Shaden and Scoot and Denny and Tamani Kamara, who's questionable. But are we just going to keep doing this with Grant? It's the same thing 4 years in a row. And they never tell us. And he's just out doubtful for 3 weeks. Well, he's not good enough to bother even holding anyway. We know that. And then Jokic, I thought he'd just be listed probable, but he's listed questionable. So I don't think there's a worry there with Jokic, but yeah, we've got to pay attention to it. If he is out, then you get those other opportunities for guys like Peyton Watson, because they started Gordon at center last time. Yes, against the Warriors, but it could be Najee. It could be a bunch of different ways they go in that particular spot. Let's have a quick look at some waiver wire trends as well. The most added players over the last 48 hours. Number 1 is Jackson Hayes. I agree with that. Number 2 is Keon Johnson. We'll talk about him in the Nets later. Moses Moody, number 3. Max Strus, number 4. They're all going to be talked about in games later on. Trey Jones, number 5. Josh Giddey is questionable. Now, he's not playing both Wednesday and Thursday games, so he's going to play one of them. Upgraded to questionable doesn't really tell us whether it's Wednesday or Thursday, but he's going to play in one of those games. We already know there's a bunch of other weird stuff going on. The Thunder arresting a lot of players against the Sixers with guys out. We know there's a lot of stuff going on. But Trey Jones is going to maintain this value here while Lonzo and Giddey... Giddey doesn't impact him that much. It's Lonzo as well. And then Justin Champagnie, one of the most added players. But again, I was very much in on adding Justin Champagnie because I thought it made sense. He was playing good minutes. The production was there. Then they just said, cool, you're just not going to play. And I think on Wednesday you can probably deal with not starting him, but yeah, and I don't think that it's going to be an every game thing that he plays 19 minutes. But last game and this game, I do believe it'll be pretty rough here for Champagnie, and then hopefully it picks up after that. That would be the hope. The most dropped players, absolutely nothing controversial on this list. Trey Murphy's out for the season, so we know that. Paul George is out for the season. People have dropped Adem Bona. Absolutely, he's not playing, so add him if he comes back. Chris Dunn was dropped. We'll talk about him in the Clippers game later. He was back starting over Derek Jones today. Cole Anthony, we just don't have any confidence in his toe at all. And then Zach Collins is a reserve, and you don't need to be rostering him. All that makes 100% complete sense. 4 games we're going to talk about. We'll get into them. Today's episode, though, is brought to you by Prize Picks. NBA season, it is getting towards the end. It is the final month of the season, and that is where things really heat up. And with Prize Picks, it's the best place for you to play daily fantasy sports. You just pick more or less on at least 2 player projections for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. It's easy to use. You can do it in over 30 states, and it lets you mix and match projections across different sports. The lineups can be built really easily. You just choose rebounds for somebody, assists for somebody, points, whatever. Mix them up together and see how your return goes. And when you do win, the money hits your account in as little as 15 minutes, no waiting around. So download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's episode is also brought to you by Hungry Root. Grocery shopping and meal planning. We all would love to do it, right? But it's difficult with time and brain power and just sometimes cost even to get the right stuff for the right meals that you need. That's where Hungry Root can come in. It's like having a personal shopper and a nutritionist at your beck and call. And they can get you those things for whatever diet. High protein, anti-inflammatory, no gluten. And the meals that they get sent to you, you can get it delivered, or get it cooked actually, not delivered under 15 minutes. That'd be ridiculous. It's not a pizza shop. You get them ready to cook in under 15 minutes. You're going to love Hungry Root. For 40% off on your first box, plus a free item in every box for life, just go to hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA. That is hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA. And you get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/LockedOnNBA. The code is LockedOnNBA. Don't miss out. That should probably lead us into talking about game 1 of the day. The Atlanta Hawks, they absolutely smashed the Charlotte Hornets. 134-102 was our final score in this one. The Hawks did run the same starting lineup that they've been putting out there for a lot of these games. Trae Young only played 31 minutes, 31, 2 and 8, 3 steals, fantastic. Dyson Daniels really couldn't miss, 83% shooting. He did 22, 7 and 7, 3 steals and a block, a ridiculously good season. No matter how high you were on him, I was high on him. I wasn't quite as high on him as what Kingy was, but we knew that he was a very, very good later round pick. But nobody saw this. This is ridiculous the way that he has played. He is just getting big minutes and scoring and just routinely doing it. It's been an amazing transformation. Oh, here's a question. Now, off the top of my head, not counting Kyrie, is Dyson Daniels the best Australian in the NBA? He has to be, yeah? I guess Giddy, but no, it's got to be Dyson, surely. All right, Aussies, chime in. Or is it Dwop Reith? No, it's not. It's Dyson, surely. Surely it's Dyson. Anyway, we'll see. Adeka Okongwu just getting it done, 15 and 10, and he hit 3 threes. That is that's an interesting wrinkle, isn't it? Let's see where that goes over the coming months and weeks. The night watchman, Mohamed Ayuge, he played 23 minutes, which is very interesting. There was no Levert, there was no Capella. So he played a little bit more in this one. He didn't do much, 4 points, but he shot 6 times and he played extra minutes. It just only one of those shots went in. He got the steals though, and he gets defensive stats basically every game. If we knew we were getting 20 minutes of gay action every night, I think we could use it. I think that would be interesting enough in not points leagues, in category leagues. But sometimes he lasts 14 minutes, sometimes it's 24. I think it is very highly correlated to players being in or out, but just keep an eye on Gay and see where it goes. I don't really understand what the Hawks are doing with Zaccharie Risacher. He played 9 minutes in the first half. He ended with 24. He went crazy in the second half, 21 and 8 with 5 threes and a block. But we all know that we can't trust this. We can't trust the playing time. We can't trust the production. He's a guy that on a day like this, you go, yeah, all right, let's try it. Let's stream him in. Let's see where we go. But there's no way in the world at this point, from what we know, with how they're using him and how he plays, that we're going, must add, hold him, play him through everything. And especially now, they don't play Wednesday, they don't play Thursday, they don't play Friday. Risacher and Gay, of course. They're not worth it to have and then sit on zeros for 2 days. That weekend back-to-back, that is unbelievably good value. But if you wait on it, you kill the value. If you go, I'm going to add for the weekend back-to-back right now, you've lost all that value you may have gained. You can't do it. It is a net loss, even though it seems like you're making a 4D chess move. Which, what is 4D chess? Does it involve smell? What's the next dimension when playing chess? What are we doing? Because 3D chess would obviously mean going up. Instead of just forward and across, you'd be going up and down. So what's 4D? Smell, yeah? Whose pawns smell nicer? Or worse, maybe. You get a penalty. That is one of the biggest, weirdest tangents of all time. Vic Krejci, 31 minutes. 5-4-2. We're not going to sit here and tell you played well, because that's not a very good line. But the minutes are intriguing, again, for the weekend back-to-back. Before I go on and talk about the Hornets side of this, we did just get news that Domantas Sabonis was ruled out for at least 10 days with that sprained ankle. That's significant. Right, that's the rest of this week. That is all of next week, and then we'll see where it lingers into the week after that. You make the decision. You know where your fantasy playoffs sit. You know where your league ends. But if you're playing standard Yahoo default, it means he comes back for the finals matchup. Maybe it's at least 10 days. I don't think you can hold on to that. Now, of course, if you have a weekly lineup league, you can. If you have a roto league, you can. If you have games caps, you can. If you have IL slots, you can. But you know that. You don't need me to say that every time. I'm just making sure you know that. But if you don't, I think you drop him. Now, do you add Valanciunas? You probably do. Now, he's not guaranteed to get 30 minutes, Jonas Valanciunas, and Trey Lyles is playing better. But JV's probably good enough to add and roll with it from here. It helps Keegan Murray a little bit as well. And then deeper leagues, you look at Jake LaRavia and you look at Trey Lyles, probably in 14-team leagues, as decent enough options, if not just stream guys. But that is bad news for Sabonis, very clearly. And yeah, I do think that does render him a droppable player. Let's talk about the Hornets side of this game now, because I hit that wrong button. I hate hitting that wrong button. Anyway, that's okay. Damian Ball started because the LaMelo Ball decided that, or no, he didn't, because I hate when this happens. And I see a lot of incredulity about things in the fantasy world. They go, man, why would LaMelo sit? What? Because they want to lose and it is not his choice. Oh, Bridges, I can't believe he sits. Cool. Not his choice. Like, I don't understand this. Oh, wow. How did this happen? Why would Jordan Poole play 11 minutes? They were trying to lose. There's stuff here where you can be frustrated with it, and I am at times too, but I understand why. The incentive that needs changing, right? That's what needs changing. But being like incredulous as to why it's happening, I don't get it. Like, it's very obvious why LaMelo Ball's not playing. Man, I can't believe his wrists are this messed up. They're not. They're really not. His ankle's not. They're just sitting him because they want to lose games. That seems like incredibly clear to me. But what do I know? Anyway, Damian Ball started and Seth Curry started with Miles Bridges out in this game. We'll talk about Ball because the game's not bad. 11-9, 5 assists, a 3. Bad shooter, but that's fine. The problem here is he played 29 minutes, LaMelo Ball was out. Then he got DMP, and then 33 minutes. He's on limited games because of his two-way contract. He's got 7 games remaining. How do we view this? Well, it's very hard to get on board with it. It's very hard to get on board with it because you just don't know when he's actually going to be playing. Now, they've got that really good schedule, Thursday, Friday, and it'd be great if LaMelo was out of some of those games. If you added Ball, that'd be great, but he could literally play 0 minutes in the next game. And you just don't know. Seth was really good here, but he's not trustworthy unless players are out either. The question now is going to be, what happens with Mark Williams? Does he play Thursday or Friday? Does he play neither of those games? Because the problem here is that I thought that Moussa Diabate would be a very good stream. I thought that with Miles Bridges out, they'd play him a little bit at the 4, and they did. He actually played next to Yusuf Nurkic. I thought that it'd be a pretty solid stream. Unfortunately, he suffered a pretty significant-looking leg injury. I don't know if it's his hamstring or his knee, but he lasted 18 minutes. And I would say, much like when I talked about Trey Murphy yesterday, it is way more likely that Diabate's season is over than he plays this week. Here's a drop. But that leaves them in a situation where Mark Williams may be out, Diabate is going to be out, and they're going to have Nurkic, and they're going to have Taj Gibson. So I think Nurkic is probably worth looking at. They could try a little bit of Tijan Salan, but he remains in the G League. We'll see whether they call him up. The other one that we looked at, and this is where you know that I bang on about this. I bang on about process. I bang on about process over results, some might say too often, right? And I know that people go, yeah, but it didn't work. Yep, that's true, right? But I don't believe you will ever have success if you just look and say, that guy had a big game, so therefore that's what we do next time. Because that's not how any of this stuff works. You've got to look at the process and understand you're going to have things that go wrong. You are. It's going to be a fact of life. You can't get everything right, but you got to focus on process. The process has to make sense. So the process kicked ass in this one. Because the process was, hey, There's a starter here that nobody is rostering. He's playing 30 minutes a night. They're the only team with 3 games in 4 nights here. They're the only team with 4 quality games remaining this week. If I'm going to stream somebody in, I might get 90 minutes of action for 1 game over the next 4 nights, skipping an 11-game Wednesday. Hey, let's see. Now, he has been doing nothing. And then we got absolutely kissed on the dick because Daquan Jeffries had 19 points with 3 threes, 5 rebounds, just 2 cheeky blocks and shot 67%. Great. Unbelievable. Now, he probably won't even combine those numbers in the next 2 games. But the reason you would have, I'm guessing, added Daquan Jeffries was to get a Tuesday, Thursday back-to-back, pseudo back-to-back, or a 3-game in 4-nighter. And it's a great illustration also of process because if he had have gone 6 points, 1 3, 2 rebounds in this game, you would have been going, man, bloody, why did I add him? And you would have dropped. And then this big game could have come in game 3. And then it all adds up nicely. So far, it's a great start. And if you have a great start, then you have the next 2 games aren't as good, you're okay. She goes, oh, well, I actually got the numbers. But if it had come as the 3rd game, you probably wouldn't have lasted holding on. That's why the process is important. It won't always hit. But you couldn't have got this level of production, this level of playing time, this level of opportunity through really anybody else. And that's why the process is important. It doesn't always work, but you want to hit the right process. Marcus Garrett had 12 and 3 with 3 steals and a block. That's a very good game. His 10-day deal ends, I think, Saturday, making it harder to feel super excited about him, but you might get that back-to-back there. And then Wendell Moore was solid enough, and he's also on a 2-way limit, much like KJ Simpson, who they are just absolutely keeping his games all the way down. Like LaMelo Ball's out, they're not even playing him. I thought he'd get a nice run down the stretch. Not at all. Not at all. Mark Williams' game wasn't very good, 4, 5, and 5. 2 steals and 2 blocks, whatever. It's okay. It's helped by everything that's not scoring. You would have hoped for a bit more, but now we wait and see what happens with his other games. And the other guys you could have streamed here was Nick Smith. It was Josh Green. They didn't play very well. 11, 5, and 4 on 31% for Smith. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And Green was useless. 20 minutes, 2 points, 3 assists. Again, you would have added him to try the 3-gamer. That's what your plan was based on. So I wouldn't go and bother dropping at this point if that is the player that you chose. Because, the process. Today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash in non-retirement accounts. That is over 8x the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk, rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost. Over 8x the national average savings account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November the 18th, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right. Let's get in now and talk about the next game, a game with some lineup changes as well. The Boston Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets. The Celtics win at 104-96. We're going to start on the Brooklyn side of this one, where D'Angelo Russell returned, and that meant that Tyrese Martin moved to the bench. We also got Zaire Williams back after a 1-game absence, meaning that Jalen Wilson moved to the bench. Let's talk about the Nets, because this was a big game from D'Angelo Russell with no Cam Thomas. 18, 5, and 7 with 4 threes. Now, he shot horribly, but he took a lot of them. 18 shot attempts. Now, Russell has been poor. He is not a top 150 player over the last 2 weeks in 27 minutes a night. It is easy to look at this game and say, well, it's now Thomas is done. That means Russell will do more. And that actually could be true. But I'm not ready to say that is the reason. Also, I'm still going to be pretty skeptical about Russell playing in all the games and his minutes pushing this high. But it's D'Angelo Russell. He does have a track record of putting up fantasy numbers for stretches of time. And the Thomas removal does help. Cam Johnson wasn't quite as good in this one. He played 29 minutes. He had 11, 2 and 4 with 2 steals, but it's not bad. Speaking of bad, though, Nick Claxton was that. 6 and 9 in 29 minutes. I would hold him, although things are getting a little rocky there. That's 130th over the last 2 weeks for old Claxo. Not looking very good. I don't think I would bother with Day'Ron Sharpe. Get that garbage out of here. If he gets a start, sure. 9 and 7 with a block is totally fine. It's whatever. And if we're in the middle of the season, I'd say, yeah, he's doing enough there to hold in a 14-teamer. But we're not. You need more out of that spot. And then we got Noah Clowney, who, again, I don't think it's going to happen, unfortunately. Bad night. Missed all 5 of his shots. Just really disappointing us. He was starting to get some momentum and then sprained his ankle. As for Zaire Williams, he had 15 and 4, 3 threes and a steal. That's a very good game. Keon Johnson, 13 points, 3 threes, 2 steals. A very good game. But he played just 23 minutes, Keon. And Zaire played 28. I wouldn't look at them as guys where I go, yeah, they're just absolute must-holds. There's no way around it. We just have to have them. I don't think that they are that sort of player. But these are solid enough games where you could feel okay if you had them. Tyrese Martin moved to the bench. He had 9 points. Not much going on there. He's shown an ability for deeper leagues and for streaming schedule type of things, but overall not really a 12-team option. The Celtics had no Jaylen Brown. They also had no Jason Tatum. So Derek White returned and Al Horford returned. I don't know if they're going to do this every game where they just cycle a bunch of guys in and out. They could, but it's not something that I think is guaranteed. Let's talk about a couple of things here. Kristaps Porziņģis, 25 and 13 to steal 3 blocks. Amazing. He's missed all this time with an illness. I think he's going to play majority of the time here, just trying to get himself back into rhythm. Derek White shot horribly, 18, 5 and 4. Peyton Pritchard, a lot of minutes, but not much result. 10 points with 3 threes. He's been very up and down after an incredibly hot start. And I still think we can be rostered, but I'm not full convinced on it. Well, Horford got a lot of minutes and didn't do much, 4, 5, and 6. And Hauser replaced Jason Tatum and didn't do anything. 8 points and 2 threes and 7 rebounds. He's had like 1 or 2 pop games, but it doesn't happen enough to absolutely lock in on him. The guy that you're going to want to question, well, you're going to have a question about Drew Holiday, who had 12, 6, and 8 with 3 steals and a block. And after an incredibly terrible season, he's playing really well. I don't have faith that he plays every game. But he's playing well, and he's got a track record. So if you wanted to get back in on Drew, I'm not going to be against it. But I'm also going to tell you about Baylor Scheierman, because on the surface, now for those of you seasoned fantasy basketball players, you'll know what's going to happen here. But it's very easy to look at this and go, man, Baylor Scheierman, do I add? 20 points, 6 threes, 2 steals, unbelievable. What a game. Because that's great. If you somehow happen to add him today, and you got these numbers, well, desks are lifting everywhere. But come on. There's no Brown, there's no Tatum. And Brown and Tatum will miss other games. Will they miss them together? I don't know. But I'll also tell you what won't happen, is that Baylor Scheierman won't shoot 88%. So it is easy to go, yeah, they're not going to play Brown and Tatum. They're going to sit every other game. Scheierman's a rookie. They're going to see what he can do. Look how good he was. This is giving Dalton Connect. Remember when Dalton Connect had those hot games and everyone was falling all over themselves about it? That's even if Brown and Tatum remained out and Scheierman took 8 shots again, what if he hits 3 in the next one and has 1 3 for 9 points? Do you care? No, you don't. He just got red hot. He played unbelievably well. Everything lined up and everything went in. So it's good to know that he did it, and he's shown a few flashes in the second half of the season, but absolutely you do not roster this. You do not add this. You do not add him. You do not go, well, those 2 games. I don't think that is going to have any hope of happening, and I'm very confident in saying that because he's not an 88% shooter, and nobody is. No, literally nobody is. So don't it's not just they were out, so he went off. It's they went out, he went off, he got extra playing time, and every single shot went in. It was just a series of unbelievably fortunate events that all worked in Baylor Scheierman's favor. All right, let's look at the next one, the Bucks and the Warriors. The Warriors win this one 104-93. The Bucks, as is basically always the case, the same starting lineup they trotted out there. Giannis and Dame were, I think, probable heading into this game, but obviously they played. Let's talk about Yanni, who was, what is there to say, really? He had 20 and 9 with 7 assists, 3 steals, and 2 blocks. That's good, but what is going on? 31% from the field. Not the line, the field. Then, of course, he was horrible from the line, going 9 of 15. That is just a horrible game overall in terms of efficiency stuff. Lillard wasn't good either. He's slumping in a pretty big way. You'd want him to pull it together, but 16, 3 and 4 is not great. While Brook Lopez, the ups and downs continue. There's enough there most of the time, 16 and 4. Well, what we actually got in this game, which we don't really get often, old mate Kyle Kuzma. 22 points with 5 threes. Don't get too excited. He just, for some reason, took a lot of shots, 16 of them. Some of them went in, 44%, but he had 2 rebounds, no steals, no blocks, 2 assists. It's a pretty standard Kuzma game, but for some reason, him and Yanni took the same amount of shots. Again, that's nonsense. And it's not something to get excited about. If he was dropped, don't bother. Don't bother. I wouldn't anyway. Gaz Trent had 10 points with a 111. The artist formerly known as the amino acid legend Torian Prince hit 2 threes. This is literally all he is good for, is 3-point streaming. And wouldn't you know it, cousin Kevin Porter couldn't keep it going. I was going to say couldn't keep it up, but I don't know his business. 2, 5, and 2 in 15 minutes for him. The thing with that is, as usual, nearly always, if you look at a guy who's the 8th man playing 17 minutes a night, they're not going to maintain value. It's too hard to do. 2 points, 15 minutes. You don't roster him outside of desperation type stream stuff. The Golden State Warriors. They welcomed Brandon Podziemski back from his injury. He was straight into the starting lineup, and Steph was having a rest day. Let's talk about Podziemski, who played 29 minutes. He had a limit of 25 minutes, so there you go. He had 17 and 7 with 4 threes and a steal, shot well. But of course, I don't know what it means. And the reason I don't know what it means is because Steph didn't play. And we haven't seen Podziemski on this strong run that he's had second half with Jimmy Butler III there and with John Kuminga back, so we don't really know. I don't mind having a look at Podziemski as a 12-team guy. Their schedule was really good Monday, Tuesday, and of course he didn't play on Monday. And they've still got 2 more quality games this week, so it's not terrible. But he's worth looking at. Budrick Hield had 15 and 6 with 4 threes and 2 steals. The only reason to use him was this back-to-back stream. Don't worry about that long term. While Butler was awesome. 24, 8 and 10 on the back-to-back and a fantastic 11 of 11 from the line. We also got another great process result here because we looked at guys to have a stream on the back-to-back. And yesterday's game, we got 8 minutes out of Quinton Post. You go, what did I do that for? But part of the reason you do it is you get the 2 games. The second game from Posty, 14 and 4, 4 threes, 3 assists, 1 steal. Pretty good. Moses Moody was the opposite. He wasn't particularly good in this game. Like, he was fine. Well, actually, no, he wasn't fine. He was below average, but when you add the 2 together, 7-7-3 in this game, it ends up an okay game. And the same with Gary Payton, if you decided to back-to-back him. This was not good. Yesterday's was great. 8 points with 2 threes and a steal. I will maintain my thoughts. You do not need to roster John Kuminga. Now, I am actually very surprised that he played in the back-to-back. Maybe you'd wish that he didn't because he was terrible again.
Get that garbage out of here.
He's just a player who he's the sort of player that I don't like as a real-life player. I don't think he actually knows where to be half of the time. He tries to get by on athleticism, but he can't pass, he can't shoot, he doesn't defend well. I don't know what he does. Right? He'll have the occasional big game, and people do love him. He's the old left side of the bus type of a person. But overall, I just don't think he's very good. And I don't think he's going to land himself in a large enough role here with a large enough usage with Jimmy Butler around for him to just be a hold. In fact, just get rid of him. I wouldn't bother in 10 or 12-team leagues with Kuminga. Maybe in a points league I could see it happening. I just don't really buy into it. Not much else here. Draymond had 3 points, but in true Draymond fashion for points leagues, it's not as good, but 10 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and 4 blocks. If you have Draymond on your team, you're not going, man, I really need 17 points out of him. He's not going to do that. He does all the other stuff, and he did all the other stuff exactly how you wanted. But now those 2 games are done. So now you decide how you want to approach it because there are 4 quality games left in the week, 4 quality game days left in the week. The Warriors played 2 of them. But there are other teams that played 2 of them, and there's a team like the Hornets that played 3. So if you did stream in again, you should have planned this out at the start of the week, but if you streamed in a Kuminga, if you tried a Post, if you tried a Moody, if you tried Pat Spencer, if you tried Gary Payton or whatever, and you've got extra moves in your pocket, are they worth it? Or are there other 2-game guys that will be better? Or can I use that to get 4 games out of 4 days with that roster slot? We're always trying to get good players and volume. If you get the 2 of them together, it's a massive W. Or if you can get someone with 3 times the volume, also a huge W. And that's the way that I think we can gain that little bit of advantage to try and minimize the impacts of variance on what can happen to our fantasy teams. All right, let's do the final game of the night. The Clippers beat the Cavs 132-119. Obi just left the room. He hates me recording these days. So he hears me start talking into the mic and he's like, absolutely not, bro. What are you doing? We've got stuff to do. We've got a walk to have. Why are you doing this? Anyway, you don't care about that. You care about the Clippers beating the Cavs. Evan Mobley returned. That meant that DeAndre Hunter went to the bench. Which one of these guys should we discuss first? Should we look at Mobley, who was fine-ish, 17 and 3 with no blocks, like you'd want better, and 3 of 6 from the line? Or should we talk about DeAndre Hunter, who just DeAndre Hunted his way to an amazing game? Points, 1 rebound, 0 assists, 0 steals, and 0 blocks. He somehow shot 70% from the field, but then missed his only free throw. Just that is an encapsulation of what DeAndre Hunter is. And what he is to you is someone who belongs on the waiver wire. And the same goes with Milk, who had 10 points with no rebounds, no threes, no steals, no blocks. I think I'm justified on my Milk hate this season. I don't know if it was hate. He's been playing well, but under no circumstance was he a guy that you lock yourself into on a roster. Just move on. Drop him. Please. This was a good game from Max Strus. And you know what I'm going to tell you about Max Strus? Drop him. Don't pick it. Don't add him. This is a good game. 24 points. 5 threes. Guess what? Shot 67%. Not an indicator that it's future value there. None. Look at every other game. He is totally fine. And Milk and Hunter and Merrill, not Merrill, Strus, they're the same guy for this team. Is it when there's a game like today with 4 games on, you stream them in and you see what happens. And then when you need to move on to get other games in, you do it. They are not guys to anchor in. Darius Garland had 17, 5 and 8. Definitely not his best, but whatever. Or Donovan Mitchell, man, Jesus, the shooting on this guy. What a horrid run he is having at the moment. He has been he was a guy that I faded a lot this season. He's been way worse than I thought. A massive, massive letdown that honestly, people took him at the end of the first round, second round, and no one's talking about how bad it's been. It's not terrible, but people complain about taking Tyrese Halliburton in round 1, and bro's like the 14th best player. Mitchell's like 50th. And no one, it just doesn't get mentioned. I don't really get it. He did have 11 assists though, so I guess that's cool. Jarrett Allen played 32 minutes, which is up from what he'd been doing in other games. 8 and 8 for him. Obviously not a particularly strong game there. We'll talk about the Clippers side of things now because, as always, we need to discuss how their lineups change. And Chris Dunn returned, and I posited this the other day. I said, hey, I do think that they want either Derek Jones or Chris Dunn in the starting group, not both. And that is what happened. We saw Chris Dunn move back into the starting group and Derek Jones move to the bench. Dunn played 17 minutes, had 2 points with a block. So you could say that his time on fantasy rosters is over. You stream him in for steals. Leonard was awesome. And I don't know why imagine calling him Leonard. How dumb would you sound? Leonard has 33 and 7 with 4 assists and 4 steals with 5 threes, 63% shooting, 19 field goal attempts, and he was a perfect 4 of 4 from the charity stripe. His name's actually Kawhi Leonard, and no one ever calls him Leonard, but whatever. Kawhi was great in this game. It was a long time coming, and he still hasn't reached anywhere near the heights of being a top 10 player, but he's cooking now. Bogdanovic also randomly played 29 minutes. He'd been playing like 20 minutes a night, so I'm not going to dive into this. He had 20 and 4 with 7 assists. I do like a stream of Bogdan when Kawhi is out, and often there are little indicators, and I'm not going to say it was Ty Lue, because he wasn't there. It wasn't Jeff Van Gundy. He was sick as well. I think it was Brian Shaw who coached the team today. Because what I look at and go, oh yeah, look at that. He didn't miss a shot, so Shaw went, can you just play a little bit more, my guy? That's why Dunn's minutes were down. That's why Bogdan's are up. And that means that those sort of fringy players, where the value of them and the production of them varies depending on what is happening in the very moment, they become harder to rely upon. And that's where Bogdan sits. Jim Harden just shot horribly, 28%, but 10 of 11 from the line is good. And the other numbers are great. What about the big fella, Ivica Zubac? 28 and 20. He's almost at Moses Brown levels now. That's a block as well. Bad from the line, but 72 from the field. And Derek Jones had 10 points, and we do not roster Derek Jones in 12-teamers. Some people still holding on to Ben Simmons. I'm just going to assume that either their league is dead, their season's over, or they themselves are dead, because there's no reason to be rostering Ben Simmons at this point in the season. Shall we line of the night it? We should. Let's drop a monstrous on ya fools' heads. Kawhi Leonard is your monstrous line of the night. He just narrowly pipped Trae Young, 33 and 7 for Kawhi, with 4 assists and 4 steals. Your waiver wire line of the night is your young gun of the night, and it's not Baylor Scheierman, because Zaccharie Risacher pops up, drops a 21-pointer with 8 rebounds and 1 block. Really strong game from Risacher in the second half. I don't trust it. And he doesn't play until Saturday, so do not add him based on that. Add him on Saturday, sure, but don't do it now. It wastes the potential of the move. And the dud of the night. Who was the worst performer who was highly rostered? Over 70% according to Basketball Monster. Who let us down the most today? It is John Kuminga. He did have 10 points, which is not a horrible night, but 2 rebounds, 2 assists, nothing else going. He's 94% rostered. It's just way too high. Unfortunately, I'm not quite that high, so it's time for me to sign off on National Poultry Day, it's time for me to give you the old call to action, the CTA, and that's delivering a thumb. That's delivering a comment. That is double banging. And that is my other call to action is keep yourselves positive. Keep looking ahead. This can apply to fantasy or anything else. Because you've got, man, everyone's injured. I can't do it. Everyone's hurt. What am I going to do? You know what it means? It means there are opportunities to use your skill as a fantasy manager to try and piece things together. Because I can assure you this. That it is very frustrating to have players be out. I know that. But I can assure you two things. You are not the only one. You are not the only one. Your opponent may not have someone out today, but they might tomorrow, they might the next day, they might the day after. And I can also assure you that the NBA is going to field 240 minutes a game for every team. So somebody steps up. NBA teams won't go from scoring 120 points to scoring 40 points because players are out. Somebody will step up. It's harder to figure out, but it's a different sort of a challenge. Now, it isn't ideal, I know that. But if you've made it and you're all the way through, find how to do it. Find the next one to move. Try the Daquan Jeffrieses. Try what we need. Try a Tristan Vukcevic tomorrow. See what happens. We can do it. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.